Hello, welcome to today's Back to the City. Today I'm excited to be joined by my good friend Austin James to celebrate the recent release of Return from Moon Volume 2, The Black Ocean. So to begin with, as we dive into the Black Ocean, this is you diving into the Black Ocean.
Thank you for saying it like that too. That's in my newsletter. I said that last time was.
Oh, really?
Let's dive into the. Will you dive into the Black Ocean with me or something along those lines?
Will you dive into the Black Ocean with us?
Yes. Welcome to the Black Ocean.
You've got no choice. You're here, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, the moon and the ocean. Of course, the moon controls the tides. I don't know whether that's an aspect of what's going on. This is Return from Moon Volume 2.
Yeah.
So could you contextualize this record and just say a little bit about why Return from the Moon and why the Black Ocean?
Yeah. So there's a lot going on, and the title just changed right before the end of the recording process.
And this is, as we record this interview, today is also the final day in the studio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So this is the last session. Got 5 more songs to finish up.
Yeah.
It'll be the last 5 on the album.
Let's dive into this song, The Escape, which is the second from last song
Yeah.
on the record. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the ones that you'll be recording today.
Yeah.
And that begins, because that brings together a lot of the different narrative threads.
Yes. Yeah.
I'll dive into a black ocean is the opening lyric.
Yep.
Waves crash against the rock I held onto. A soft breath returns rhythmically. So we have a return, but it's a return of breath. And that's one of a number of references to breath in the songs that you're recording today. Oceana has Was I Alive or Barely Breathing?
Yep.
And then in the Aftermath 2, also one that you record today,
Yep.
wondering if it's now or hereafter you breathe for.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, breath, and especially from a meditation standpoint, is like it's bringing you back into the present, right? Like
Absolutely.
when you're counting down the breaths, that's allowing me, and especially when I was doing digital marketing and working for a software startup, I spent a lot of time on computers and using a lot of my creative energy to do my day job. And I would just have to, like, midway through the day, just take a moment to just sit and breathe and count the breaths and take 10 minutes so that I could focus in the afternoon, just to clear the brain from all of the waste that was going on.
Yeah, and that really comes through. There's a contrast between in Spectrums, we have I spent years killing my beliefs.
Yeah.
Now I let them light the way. And then by the time we're in Seeking and Restless, remind me not to forget what I believe in or what I'm fighting for. That being my sanity.
Yeah, yeah.
So
that's a pretty blunt moment.
Yeah.
The can I just be okay, like, at the end of the day? In Prisms, where I'm talking about that is my parents were divorced when I was really young.
Yeah.
And my reality became very different from many of my friends and the other people I interacted with around me, and switching schools and moving around a lot, just having to make new friends always, or become a part of new families, make new families, and then those families go away and join new ones. And so really all I was doing was learning how to survive in a bunch of new environments. And that took most of my emotional energy. And that's what I wouldn't say I consciously was focusing on it, because I didn't really know what the hell I was doing, but I just learned to fit in. So no matter what situation I was in or group of people I was around, I was just learning how to fit in with them. So if I was with the sports jocks, I was super bro and would fit in and play my role in that group, and then I'd go hang out with the my guys, like the more heartfelt, quirkier, goofier oddballs, where I felt at home. But then I'd go to the next group and I would fit into whatever role that was, and that's what I get really good at more than almost anything, I think. And I got good at playing characters.
Sure.
And being an actor.
Yes.
Which I really was. It was hard. There were moments I was never not, like, I was completely not myself. Like, those, I still was there in bits and pieces, but I really lost my true identity, and I wouldn't stick up for myself. I wouldn't speak up when I disagreed with things. And I just kind of always, I let other people decide who I was going to become, essentially. And that started when I was really young.
Yes.
And it just continued to grow the older and more aware I became of the world. And I tried to fit myself into everyone else's box. And in doing that, you know, I was constantly just like killing my own beliefs towards things and denying myself the ability to be like, I disagree, and I'm okay with that, and I'm firm in that. I was always, and I think it is healthy to be open to being swayed, but like I was continuously swayed over and over again, and jumping back from viewpoint to viewpoint, and it's a really hard way to live.
Yeah.
But that became my coming of age story, was a loss of identity, but I put on a good face, and people thought I was doing well. Like even up until this last year. I'm 29 now, and I've done a lot of great things, and I've accomplished some really awesome things, starting businesses, graduating from college. But even throughout all of that, I was still playing a role, and I was living a life that was not mine, I felt like. And that's where that killing my beliefs came into play. But ever since I had a pretty big breakdown / breakthrough this last fall, and
they often go together.
Yes. And I was at that monthly entrepreneur meetup that I'd been going to for about 3.5, 4 years at that point, and I'd been sober for 4 months at that time, and there was a lot of emotions going on. I'd just recently restarted my digital marketing business. It was growing really fast. I'd been sober for 4 months, had a lot of time to reflect on the first 28 years of my life and as a whole, and I wasn't happy with it. Even though I felt like my life was still continuing forward, I was going upward, I was making so much progress, especially in other people's eyes, like what they think success is.
Sure.
Yet I'd put music on hiatus a little bit, and I ended up just all of those emotions of like looking backward, the appreciating and being proud of myself for being sober, something that had plagued me for about 11 years. All of that in this business growing and my responsibility growing, but also feeling trapped in it, like I couldn't escape it.
Yes.
I was creating my own prison.
Okay.
Again.
Yes, a different type of prison.
A different
one.
one.
But now with enough self-awareness to recognize that being what was happening.
Yeah. And that self-awareness led to the full breakdown of me, like fully, just all the emotion came out at once. I was crying to the point where I couldn't speak. Fortunately, it happened in this really great, safe group of people.
Yeah.
And I couldn't talk. I couldn't explain it. But they gave me the resources to start getting help and finally do some things that I've been saying I wanted to do for years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, therapy, yoga, meditate more than I had been, playing more music again. So there's a lot of things going on in that, but in that experience of therapy, yoga, meditation, learning more about, just God, all religions, different ways of viewing our existence, and also looking inward, which is the hardest thing I think any of us can do, is to know ourselves fully and accept ourselves fully.
Absolutely.
All the good things and the bad things that we've...
Yeah, and integrate the shadow work, integrate the what one initially is resistant to own and step into wholeness.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I've been running from my bad things my whole life. I tried to just distance myself from them, whether it's deleting things off social media or just waiting for enough time to pass where I could like feel okay just being me again. Like I forgot about that thing I did. And now just that point of like, good people do bad things, and it's just the way it is, and you have to learn to love yourself. I had to learn to love myself, and didn't happen overnight. It took quite a few months of just self-reflection, help from an unbiased person who doesn't know anything about me, and just asking me really tough questions that I had to come to the answers to. And I had to decide what those answers were, and I had to come to those things. And thus, I formed my new belief, which was a lot of things I'd already kind of believed about myself, but now I really believe it, and that shows through action. Where before it was just thoughts and words and visualizing. Yeah. But I wouldn't act it out on a daily basis because still wasn't sure if I believed it.
Yeah, becoming a rock oneself. So the waves crash against the rock I held onto. Well, if the rock is our authentic self, then that can withstand the external waves and provide the light to guide us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've rode a wave most of my life, I would say, is like this roller coaster of ups and downs, which life is that way, but I also was riding up and down instead of like, how can I maintain some, like, so I'm not peaking and bottoming out with the waves as they go, and kind of ride in the middle somewhere. Yeah. And I've finally found that contentness in my life and that peace. Yeah. But I had to do it by getting to know myself better.
Absolutely.
Accepting who that was.
So on the album cover, we have you returning from moon, like falling into the Black Ocean.
Kind of, yeah.
Yes. So what exactly is happening here, and how does this image relate to the narrative of self-discovery and then realignment that you're discussing? So you're falling, and I can see how this is a perfect image for the record, and yet the record is also it's not just about falling, it's about realignment as well. How does this all come together?
Yeah, and I think that's where Earth represents the realignment. So I'm returning closer to the Earth, which I reference a lot in a lot of my songs. Yeah. And I kind of pulled that concept because the more I talk to people, and especially people our age, people are, and just the way the world is going, people are obsessed with outer space, and even I am to a degree, but it was a gentleman, I was in Champaign, Illinois last winter. I was working remotely, traveling around, just grabbing drinks at this restaurant, and we started talking music, found out he made some beats and made his own music, and he referenced the moon in his artist title as well. I was like, hey, let's chat a little bit, and I want to learn more about this thing. And he talked about how he felt like he was born in the wrong time period, and that maybe he belongs on the moon or somewhere else, but not here in this moment. And at first I thought that was really interesting, but playing devil's advocate, which also kind of helped form my own belief in this, is that we're supposed to be here right now for a reason, and the world needs our help, needs people's help, like any of us who've gone through that struggle of losing your identity, refinding yourself, and we're surrounded by people who are with the internet, which is something that's kind of underlying throughout all of my songs. And
the internet?
Yeah, just, and it's more prevalent in the earlier songs I wrote, but that's a big, I was in high school when Facebook and things like that came into our lives, into our everyday life, and AOL, AIM, chat, stuff like that in middle school, and just like, but you started to see instantaneously what other people were doing with their lives, and it was the comparison game was on from that standpoint.
Right, and then it's easier to end up playing these different roles.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're being force-fed all day of what traditional or what success looks like according to
how to be normal.
How to be normal, yes. And the internet's telling you what that is.
To find one's authenticity.
Yeah. And that's a big part of that loss of identity too, and coping with this tool that we have that's really great in a lot of ways, but if we're not monitoring it ourselves, and if we're not understanding who we are individually, we won't know how to use this thing properly. And we're kind of in the middle of that right now.
Absolutely.
And that's the world we live in, and that's where I feel like I don't need to be on the moon or in the clouds or anywhere else. I need to be here.
Grounded.
In this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Finding oneself where one is caught up, seemingly damned to misery perhaps, because as we're kind of being thrown around by these waves, but then finding a way to tell a different story of repair. And it comes down in the aftermath too, to choose or be buried in the blistering news that this was all a fantasy, this moment of choice. So we find ourselves and then we can choose ourselves.
There's a lot going on in that too, and
what's going on there?
So that one is that choosing. A lot of that's about faith, and what do we put our faith in? And just for me, coming to that belief that we all have to find it ourselves, and we can't push whatever our beliefs are on other people because we're all on a different journey.
Yes.
And I've struggled with that for most of my life, and I've been surrounded by, we're all surrounded by other people's beliefs, right? And they're projecting them upon us, and some of the ones I was introduced to just never felt right to me, and I always felt insecure about that, but I kind of just went along with it because that's all I knew. So that part of the song, and that's just are we gonna choose the right, maybe not the right thing, but what is that choice we're gonna make, and are you gonna be really grounded in that and in yourself, or are you gonna put your faith in something just because somebody else told you so, and then find out at some point that it was just a make-believe story or is a fantasy?
Yeah, or not the thing for you. So the lyric that sticks out from Deep Blue is, I don't want to pray if I don't understand who it is I'm talking to. So the cultivation of a relationship with the universe or God, that is a true relationship for you.
Yeah.
It's you that's in relationship.
Yes, and that's a big theme of it. And that line, there's two sides of that story, right? Because do we ever really understand who that thing or person or whatever we're praying to, do we ever fully understand it? And the answer is probably no. But there is some level of,
but we appreciate that we're in relation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now I know at least what I'm intending to pray to, and that's a big part of that.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It does make sense. Yeah, and something else that comes up near the end is, please forgive me, thank you for the pain and suffering.
Yeah.
And trust. If I can't trust you, who on earth, and specifically on earth, could ever love me? Trust comes up throughout, in PTS Me, which is a good title and song. Who have I to trust now? So we're trying to trust ourselves. We're figuring out who externally we can trust. Forgiveness is important. We're asking for forgiveness, and we are grateful for the pain and suffering. And this is all in the song about diving into the black ocean. So when we dive into the black ocean, is that allowing ourselves to feel, to connect with oneself?
There's a duality to this black ocean, which came about after I wrote everything.
Yeah.
I didn't realize what the larger story was until it was over, was that I wrote that song largely, and I've had that chorus in my mind and the guitar for probably over a year. But I was waiting for the rest of it to happen. I was like, this song has to be hopeful. It cannot be all angry.
Sure.
Because it's a beautiful song, and it feels like it needs to be beautiful, but I'm not happy or content right now. So I need to wait for that to come before I could finish that song. But largely that in the chorus where it's lure me into you, the sweetness with the bitter twist, I'm referencing alcohol and alcoholism and being pulled into this black ocean of blacking out and not remembering and just losing control of myself.
Yes.
So that was kind of the original theme there. But then the black ocean started to play this larger role of, the black ocean's also this thing that I know somewhere in there, it's that great unknown, but for all of us to chase that vision that's in our mind, it's different for every one of us. So you have to go into the unknown and do something that nobody's ever done. It might look similar in ways, but ultimately nobody has ever lived your life for you. Absolutely. And they can't.
Yeah.
So the black ocean is that, it could be space. I chose the ocean because it's here on Earth, but it's also this, it's going into the unknown and just facing those fears of, and the ocean can be a scary place, deep down in there. It's, sharks and weird looking creatures. And I reference those creatures in the song as well. Their eyes I saw as beasts surrounded me. I'm in the ocean at that point. I'm down there. But eventually finding some comfort in, the world can be scary, but most things don't want to hurt you.
And there is meaning to be found there in this struggle. Maybe in the black ocean I will find a home and stay forever. Maybe I'll come back surrendering. Yeah.
And that's referencing some of my future travels. By the time this comes out, I'll have departed to Bali. I bought a one-way ticket before I decided to even start recording this album to Indonesia to just go travel abroad indefinitely. Which is something I've been thinking about for a big chunk of my life, especially my adult life. I've been wanting to do that.
With this
And that's
firm
the great
sense of
unknown.
self, taking this, with this sense of integrity, and then allowing yourself to then grow in these different contexts.
Yeah, and that black ocean is, kind of stepping on that plane for the first time, and like, I shut down my business and all sources of income. I'm saying goodbye to friends and family, and not forever, but I don't know what is going to happen next.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that too. For the first
Right.
time in my life, I haven't planned it out more than like the first week.
Yeah.
I'm going to see kind of what the universe decides for me, while I'm also now living my true self and living out my truth, to see what does that create. And it is terrifying.
Yeah, and the past selves are not disowned. It seems to me like the way in which you're talking about the shift in what the black ocean is. It's like once, what the former self is more confusingly doing, diving into the black ocean back when it represents like drinking, is an immediate way of serving this deeper need that is then later met through this new black ocean.
Yeah, through self-discovery, and it's kind of that. It kind of goes back to Buddhism teachings of like nothing is inherently good or bad, and this black ocean, depending on how you look at it, and depending on what you use it for, can be good or bad.
Yeah.
And now I'm finding the good use of that unknown, that throwing myself into a scenario where I don't know the outcome, which used to be drinking outrageous amounts of alcohol, is to now I'm like carefully choosing I'm going to go to a country I've never been, where I don't know anyone and I don't have any income. I've saved up some money, but it's kind of, the outcome is I can control pieces of it, but there's a lot that's outside of my control.
Yeah.
And that excites me. And I
That
think
is
that's
exciting.
what used to excite me about drinking a lot is, at some point I'm going to lose control. And I don't know what's going to happen. And to me, that it was exciting for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. There's surrender, but now there's a more kind of healthy and fruitful surrender combined with integrity, like stability of self.
Yeah.
Authenticity, like alignment with the self. Let's look back at the opening track to get a sense then of like where the journey that we've taken from Astronaut, which begins with the animal you can't control devours what it needs. So the idea of control and the idea of need, we've just been talking about those two things. There's a reference on countdown and disconnect, and then find peace and elevation to the sun-dressed castle. So and the castle becomes an important part of this universe. By the time we get to Mirador, it's like that's a tower attached to like a castle or a building. So let's focus on some of those components from the beginning to get a sense of like where we've traveled from.
Astronaut was the first song on this. I believe it was the first one I wrote out of all of them. Astronaut, Apollo, and Center of the Universe were all written in a similar time. I think Astronaut was finished last, but I kind of knew the theme of it. When I wrote the guitar part especially, I was like, I knew right away it was going to be the first song on whatever album I create. I just knew it. I was like, this is going to be the first song. And that theme, when I'm talking about cannibals and animals in the beginning, I'm referencing kind of the awful things us humans can do to each other. And when you don't, when you're not grounded.
When we're on autopilot and it's just driven by this survival. You were saying because of the being dropped in these different circumstances, there is the need to survive and the need to just fit in becomes dominant. And until we recognize the place that need has alongside other needs, then there is a risk of us hurting ourselves and each other quite a bit.
And I'm very guilty of that, and looking back, and that's been another source of sadness in that reflection of my life as a whole. Looking back, it's like, man, I said some mean things trying to fit into one group and disconnect from the other.
Disconnect, count down and disconnect.
There's a lot of disconnecting, reconnecting. I'm using astronaut and spaceships and flight to outer space to kind of represent what that's like, and this young boy who's trying to escape Earth, and really his reality that was forming around him.
Yeah.
I experienced a lot of family trauma and just a lot of people hurting each other as I grew up and became an adult, and I let that hold me down from going and living my best life, because I felt like I needed to be here to help piece it together for everyone else while I was equally as broken. And
Right. Yes.
that's referenced in the aftermath too of the, you're broken, we're all broken. But yeah,
But there isn't yet, for the astronaut, there isn't yet an owning of that. There isn't yet an acknowledgement of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just trying to get away. And
Yeah.
as he does start to detach, just realizing how small these problems really were when he goes to live out his truth and live his best life, which he didn't really know what that was in Astronaut. That version of me was, he was on the path to discovery, but it was still, there's a lot of anger in that song, but there is that like relief of, like, I kind of see things differently from up here now.
We embrace a brand new ending through also kind of embracing and making peace with the beginnings.
Yeah, and I've had to do a lot of that in the last 6 months.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing it through the form of songwriting and for leaving these, there will be 2 records as a product of that. And I love how, as we close, that the record closes with the song Oceana, that really brings together all the different things you're doing with the guitar and the fullest vocal range.
Yeah.
It really does celebrate sonically. It celebrates the full reality, like all components of yourself and the experience. So what a nice way to end.
Yeah, and I thank you for saying it and putting it so eloquently. And today you put a lot of things into, said things in ways that I feel like I learned more about this album talking to you about it. So I appreciate that. You're able to comprehend these things too, and we're able to talk about it, because it's therapeutic for me to go through this exercise and to play the music and to share it, and it's more than just songs compiled together. To me, it's a larger story, and I'm excited to share it.
Yeah, a story of healing and repair.
Yeah.
And renewal. So that's excellent. I'm glad that we took this dive into the Black Ocean.
Thank you. Me as well.